The push for hybrid electric ferries taking longer than anticipated. Why delivery of 3 new ships to our state face more delays. A high-speed chase on I-5 had more than doubled the speed limit. What we know about this pursuit, and the suspect had got away. Clallam County facing a nearly $2 million deficit, and now some difficult decisions. The possible layoffs coming to the Olympic Peninsula. I'm Sabir Rayford. This is Washington News Wrap for Thursday, October 9th, 2025. We start tonight with a push to make our state ferries greener. In July, Governor Bob Ferguson announced the state will award a $715 million contract to a Florida company to make 3 new hybrid electric ferries for the state's evolving ferry fleet. But new reporting by the Washington Standard says the choice comes with a slower timeline. To learn more about this story, let's bring in reporter Tom Bonsi. Tom, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be with you.
To start, state officials picked a Florida company instead of a shipbuilder in our state. Why did they choose to go out of state?
Well, at the time, and there was a celebration this summer that the state finally is getting around to updating its aging ferry fleet. The choice seemed to be, money versus local jobs. And the 2 bidders, one was local, Nichols Brothers in Everett and Whidbey Island, or Eastern Shipbuilding out of the Florida Panhandle. The Panhandle shipyard was so much cheaper, and that's your and my money that we're spending on this. So the governor said, he would have liked to send the work, keep the dollars at home, but it was just no question when the out-of-state bid was hundreds of millions of dollars cheaper.
And timeline was also a big part of this. So when our state solicited bids for these ferries, they said they want the first boat to be here by 2029. Your reporting reveals the timeline has changed.
Yeah, there was an extra dimension that we are only finding out about now, about the choice between the 2 shipyards and the 2 bids. The Nichols Brothers bid said it would meet the specifications in the states going out to bid to have the first ferry delivered in 4 years and then another ferry each year after that. The Florida shipyard, for reasons which were not quite clear, put in their low bid but said, we'd like an extra year. And that fact was on the table, not really publicized at the time when the governor made the final call to go with the Florida shipyard. So now we're looking at 5 long years before the first relief comes in the form of new ferries for the stretched ferry system we have.
So it's been stated these ferries will not arrive all at the same time. When will all 3 ships be here in Washington state?
They're going to build one at a time, and so the first one comes in, if it comes on time, in August 2030, and then 2031 in August for the next one, and 2032 for the third one. Eventually, there probably will be, if this goes well, to use this Florida shipyard follow-on orders, because the state eventually wants 16 new ferries by about 2040.
So there's also a hurricane provision in the contract with this Florida shipbuilder. Is that common practice in this industry? And do you think more delays are expected?
I don't know. We have never had to deal with this for Washington Ferries acquisition. The first time we've, in more than 50 years actually, that Washington State is buying a ferry from out of state. But that's been a problem for this shipyard, Eastern Shipbuilding. They were hit by a hurricane in 2018, and the ferries they were building at that time for Staten Island were delivered late because of the significant damage the shipyard received.
And from what I understand from your reporting, this gives them some leeway in costs that they may have to pay for being late if there is a hurricane, correct?
That's right. So there are late delivery penalties, because it's really important that we would get new ferries in this contract, but those penalties are waived in the case of a hurricane.
Well, do you know how these ferries will be transported to our state from Florida, which is obviously across the country?
Right. Well, they have to go through the Panama Canal, and WashDOT is concerned about just setting them out because they're not designed to go over oceans. None of our Washington State ferries are. So either they'll be loaded on an even bigger ship and just carted like an oil rig would be transferred around the world, which will be quite expensive, or they might get some reinforced, some extra steel around the bow to keep the waves out of the car deck and go under their own power. That's not quite decided yet, and the Coast Guard will have a say.
So finally, I think it's important to ask, so many people in our state use the ferry. This is often impacting hundreds of thousands in our area. How are people feeling, and has the governor or state officials responded to your reporting and some of these concerns?
Well, we asked the governor's office and the ferry leadership about this, and they said they made an intentional choice knowing that it would take a year longer, but it just was not a question to go with the potentially shorter timeline with a much more expensive local bid, because the state just doesn't have that extra money lying around that might involve getting one fewer ferry down the road. I imagine, though, there will be more grousing as this goes out, particularly because, we have to nurse along an aging fleet for an extra year at this point, and it's already trouble right now.
Well, Tom, thank you for your time, and thank you for your reporting. We appreciate you coming on to Washington News Wrap.
My pleasure.
Well, Washington State Ferries will hold 2 virtual town hall meetings on Tuesday to update the public on ferry development, electrification plans, terminal construction, and more. The meetings will be held at 1 and 6 p.m. You have to register ahead of time for the meetings, so just visit the link on your screen. Authorities are searching for a domestic violence suspect who got into a high-speed chase with the Thurston County Sheriff.
21 copy, call up the traffic again.
Sheriff Derek Sanders says Chehalis Tribal Police saw a man slam a woman onto the ground near a casino. Then the suspect took off in the car with the woman inside. The sheriff says he chased the suspect at speeds up to 145 miles per hour on I-5, trying to catch him. He says they stopped the pursuit near exit 128 in Tacoma due to concerns about the woman in the car. The car got away. Sheriff Sanders says the suspect has possibly been identified as a convicted felon with several warrants out for his arrest throughout the I-5 corridor. He says the suspect was driving on a revoked license. Chehalis Tribal Police are investigating. The federal government shutdown has reached its 9th day, but we're learning a program for infants and moms in our state will remain open for now. The Washington State Women's Infant and Children's Nutrition Program says they secured more funding to stay open through this month. Officials say the Department of Health secured a grant that will help them out. A federal building in support of law enforcement could be coming to Spokane, according to Request for Proposal, or RFP. The federal government is looking at Spokane and 20 other medium-sized cities as potential locations. The exact purpose of the possible location isn't immediately clear, but in the RFP it says the intent is to lease an administrative office space to, quote, support of law enforcement operations and storage solutions appropriate for law enforcement administrative operations. Earlier this year, there was some frustration when the layoffs were announced within Spokane Research Laboratory. Leases were also canceled at U.S. Geological Survey Office in Spokane Valley. Spokane's mayor was not familiar with the federal government taking a renewed interest in the city.
I'm just really not familiar specifically with what they're talking about.
The RFP was published on September 16th and allowed 2 weeks for proposals to be submitted. It's not clear or unclear if that happened. Officials on the peninsula are looking at a number of options to deal with a major budget shortfall heading into 2026. According to the Peninsula Daily News, Clallam County commissioners are considering eliminating nearly a dozen full-time positions amid a budget deficit of about $1.9 million. The panel says the county is going to be taking in about 5.6% less in revenue in the new year, with expenditures going up by nearly 5%. The county administrator has proposed 5 options for tackling the budget shortfall. Only one of the proposals would eliminate the possibility of layoffs. The panel says it was going to consider the options and move forward with one of the proposals at next Monday's meeting. It's a coffee giant at one of the biggest employers in Washington state. Up next, the major layoffs just announced by Starbucks.
Searching for new employees? Hyper-target job seekers in your area down to the zip. Learn how Flex data-driven ad solutions can drive job seekers to your company. Connect with Flex.com.
Major layoffs are coming for Starbucks workers in Western Washington. According to the Department of Labor, 974 people who work for Starbucks in Seattle and Kent will lose their jobs. The agency says workers will start being laid off on December 5th. It comes 2 weeks after Starbucks announced the Capitol Hill Reserve Roastery in Seattle will close. The location unionized in 2022, and they have been demanding more staffing, on-the-job protections, and pay. Starbucks said that closure did not have to do with the store employees' decision to unionize, saying the reason was, quote, "We don't see a path to financial performance." Looking live at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, the Mariners are getting ready for Game 5 against the Detroit Tigers on Friday. If they win, it will be their first American League Champion Series appearance in 24 years. And one of the biggest suppliers of Mariners gear is having its own playoff run. The crew at Simply Seattle is busy filling orders for fans across Washington State and the country amid the team's historic postseason run. Right now, the Simply Seattle team isn't printing anything new because, like the fans, they're waiting to see what comes next.
We've got both of our stores loaded up with all of our playoff designs for Friday. So we think it's really important for people to get out, go down to the game, cheer your hearts out Friday night, tomorrow night for Game 5. That's going to be a pivotal part, and our stores will be stocked up with tons of playoff gear to kind of celebrate what's the biggest Mariners playoff game as far as I can remember, for sure.
He says their best-selling design is Cal Raleigh's now iconic quote, "Let's just go win the whole thing." Meteorologist Claire Anderson joining us now. And Claire, how will the weather be for fans at T-Mobile Park?
Well, it's going to be chilly, so grab all of your Mariners gear to wear out to the park. So that first pitch changed from the 1 o'clock start to the 5 o'clock start, and it actually might be a little drier. We do have some showers moving through, especially earlier in the day, but cloudier skies with temperatures in the low 60s. Probably, I'm thinking roof closed because if we have rain leading up to the event. So question mark there, but it'll be in the low 60s and cooling down quickly. So be ready for cooler temperatures. Wow, what a beautiful sunset this evening. The clouds out there moving inland. Now we had some showers earlier, but some sunshine has been peeking through Seattle. Out at Claylock Lodge along the coast, beautiful conditions there as well. Looking at our upper level low, we have been seeing clouds moving through western Washington today. A little bit clearer for the east side, but upper level low trough off the coast has been kicking up some clouds as well as a few showers earlier today. Notice most of those clouds Wenatchee westward, drier and clear for the eastern side of the state. A little bit of rain moved there earlier today, just about 1/10 of an inch for Snoqualmie Pass, just under that for Bellingham, a few hundredths of an inch between Seattle, Bremerton, and Everett. Dry for central and eastern Washington. Temperatures today was actually really nice. Spokane got almost to 80 degrees as well as Pullman. Mid-70s Wenatchee, 62 for Seattle and Tacoma along with Olympia. Mid-60s out towards Forks. For the futurecast tonight, we do see chance of showers mainly out along the coast. Clear and cool night again for central and eastern Washington. Mostly cloudy tonight for western Washington. As the day continues, clouds will increase. Showers likely to start the day on Friday. We will see those showers kicking up again by lunchtime. So here's Seattle. Notice those showers going through. Here's 5 o'clock, so the first pitch in the Mariners game. Looking rather dry as well as the Husky game is going on in town in Seattle. Showers up towards Bellingham, Spokane. You're looking at showers along with Wenatchee. So Friday night lights, if you are heading outside, just be ready for some cooler temperatures and scattered showers. Heading into Saturday, though, we do see a few more scattered showers. That is across the state. And then heading into Saturday night into Sunday, cooling down. And yes, snow is back in the forecast for those mountains. So we do see snow levels dropping to around 3,500 to 4,000 feet Sunday into Monday, which could bring us some snow to our higher, of course, elevations first. Maybe a snowflake or two more at Stevens Pass. No major issues for the passes, but it's starting to get that time of year. It's going to get breezy, especially Friday afternoon as we start to see some showers moving through. Gusty for Ellensburg, Wenatchee. Wind continues across the state through Friday night, and then Saturday, stronger winds across the area. So breezy throughout the weekend, no matter where you're at. Low 60s, Seattle and Bellingham. Mid-70s for Spokane. Pullman at 71, 60 for Hoquiam. Temperatures tomorrow in the low 60s for Seattle, wet and breezy into Saturday. Sunday, a cool and wet day as well. Wenatchee, you'll see mid-70s. Few showers for Friday. Breezy on Saturday, low 60s. Cooler with showers into Sunday. Similar story for Bellingham.
If you believe in angels, I got one.
Total strangers forever bonded. The donation of one man's organs to a man fighting to survive leaves a lasting legacy of life-saving love. Grab your tissues. You don't want to miss this story next.
Need a spotlight on your law firm? Hyper-target new clients in your area down to the zip. Learn how Flex data-driven ad solutions can drive more clients to your law firm. Connect with Flex.com.
¿Por qué tienes este lugar?
He leído que el café es un gran negocio. ¿Me puedes recomendar un blend? ¿Blends? ¿Qué es eso?
Cinema fans, listen up. The Seattle Latino Film Festival returns for its 17th year. You'll get a chance to see stories from filmmakers from around the world, from here in the U.S. to countries like Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and Spain. Opening night of the film festival is Friday at the Fry Art Museum in the First Hill neighborhood. The event starts at 6 p.m. More than 1,500 people, including children in Washington state, are waiting for organ transplants. Eli Kern brings us the story of a Yakima County robotics instructor whose life was saved through a transplant and the unlikely bond formed through the process.
If you believe in angels, I got one. You know, I got an angel up there.
This is Al Bass. The man you see taking in the view today went through a battle to get here.
I was a teacher. I was subbing out to the Yakima School District as a robotics instructor, and I always say begin with an end in mind. And so focused on the end point, and I had noticed I started getting kind of a dementia, a little forgetful quite often.
After continuing to show symptoms, Bass's wife stepped in.
She threatened me to call an ambulance, and so as stubborn as I am, I didn't. We went ahead and went in, and then that day I got diagnosed with a liver issue, with they call it the NASH.
Bass spent 10 years in and out of the hospital with non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, or fatty liver disease. For 7 years of that decade, Bass slept in a hospital bed in his own bedroom. The disease preventing his body from properly filtering fluids, causing harrowing doctor visits.
I was going in weekly to get a procedure called paracentesis. He would come in and puncture my stomach, and they would put a vacuum bottle on me, and weekly they would take out like 13.2, 13.5 liters of fluid every Monday morning. If I didn't, I couldn't breathe.
This treatment lasting for a couple years before Bass's liver problems hit a breaking point.
It was being over 100 degrees along the highway, and you know, the heat of the pavement. I'm on my hands and knees trying to figure out how to change a tire, and it took me 3.5, 4 hours to, you know, put it on.
Bass was so delirious he couldn't change a tire. Once again, his wife rushing him to the hospital.
They took their tests, and then that day they said, you're not doing good.
The word was put out across the Northwest that an emergency transplant was necessary, or Bass was going to die.
They brought a helicopter in, and they airlifted me out that night. So, you know, July 22nd, 2018. Yeah, that's when I met Greg.
He was a musician. He was not married, no kids. He definitely had a sense of humor, and Al and him are very much alike in the sense of humor department.
Greg Sutton is Janet Anderson's only son. A single mother living in Kansas City, her son living in Spokane.
It just drives me nuts to visualize I was going into the hospital, and Greg was fighting for his life.
Greg Sutton was in a motorcycle accident with critical injuries. Sometimes a mother just knows.
I knew he was gone, and he hadn't been declared yet. But it gave me a chance to sit in his hospital room and pray for the recipients, whoever they were going to be. And that was exciting to me in the midst of all this, that they were going to get the call of a lifetime.
And this lady's so strong. It's amazing to lose a child and be that strong.
To be in that position where somebody was going to get that call, I knew the best I could without being in that situation. I felt I could understand how excited I would be if somebody was saving my son's life.
In July of 2018, Greg Sutton died. His organs saved the lives of 4 others, including Bass. After the first few months of initial recovery, Bass wanted to reach out, taking several attempts to get the letter just right.
I start writing it, I'd break down. Write another one, I'd break down. You know, how do you ask? How do you thank somebody, you know, who just lost their only child? You know, single mother of 1, and she just lost him. You know, and I lived.
When I got the letter, I was crying, uncontrollably to where I couldn't read the letter. I had to keep wiping my eyes, and as soon as I'd wipe them, they were full again. And I thought, quit, I gotta read this letter.
Finally exchanging phone numbers, Anderson was able to speak to the man that was saved by her son.
He was so scared to talk to me. And I get that. I mean, how do you talk to somebody who's lost a loved one? And he was stuttering, and he gets very emotional even to this day.
In the 6 years since, the pair have continued their friendship, bonded by the life-changing experience they share.
We talked a lot that first year. It was almost like I got him through it because he felt a lot of guilt, but yet he got me through it because I went through obviously a lot of hard times, and I knew he understood.
To be so close to death, you become conscious of everything around you. You become conscious of life.
Because we all, I would hope, want to help somebody in life. And what better way than our very, very last act on this earth? We go out, literally, the last thing we do is help other people. Can't get any better than that.
Beautiful story. That was Eli Kern reporting. Thank you for joining us for Washington News Wrap. You can stream all of our episodes on the Fox Local app. It's free to download on all smart TVs and mobile devices. Have a great night.
Is your HVAC business cooling down? Hyper-target consumers in your area down to the zip. Learn how Flex data-driven ad solutions can drive more consumers to your HVAC business. Connect with Flex.com.
Aren't you going to miss the game?
No, I've got NFL Plus. It's on my phone.
Get live, local, and primetime games on mobile with NFL Plus. Keep the NFL in reach.
Welcome back to another edition of Washington Sports Wrap. I am your host, Lauren Albrecht. The Seattle Mariners are back in the Emerald City, and it all comes down to Game 5, with the American League Division Series all tied at 2 games apiece. The M's took to the diamond for one final practice before hosting the Tigers in a winner-take-all matchup tomorrow. And while Detroit has named its Game 5 starter, a big question looms over Seattle. Who will be on the bump in this must-win Game 5? We have the latest from the team next. And hockey is back. The Seattle Kraken take the ice tonight for their first game of the season with a new coach, new players, and new expectations. We are live at Climate Pledge previewing Game 1. All of those stories, plus an interview with Sound of Hockey's Darren Brown, all coming up on Washington Sports Wrap. Let's take a look at Mariners-Tigers series as a gift to Seattle. See, of course, would it have been wonderful for the M's to take down the Tigers yesterday in Game 4 of the ALDS and punch a ticket to the championship? Yes, of course. But that's not what happened. So instead of being disappointed in that performance, I'm looking at the loss with a silver lining. Now Seattle can win at home in front of the Mariners faithful to give back to a city that supported them through decades of hardship. The M's were back on the diamond at T-Mobile Park this afternoon, practicing for a final time before the decisive Game 5 against the Tigers tomorrow night. Seattle needs to wash Game 4 quickly, and so do the fans, because this team has what it takes to win against the Tigers if they view yesterday's 9-3 loss as a fluke. While the bullpen had been a strength of Seattle late in the season, they allowed 7 runs in the loss, so all eyes will be on the pitching in Game 5. And just minutes ago, skipper Dan Wilson announced George Kirby will be on the bump for Seattle.
George Kirby will be on the mound tomorrow for us. As expected, just certainly threw very well first game of the series, it comes back on a good rest, and we're ready for tomorrow, and excited that George has the ball, and like I said, threw well against him last time, and would expect the same type of outing from George tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go out there, give the team best chance to win, go as long as I can, and I know whoever comes in after me is gonna go out there and shut it down.
Kirby with the start for Game 5. He was the Game 1 starter, and he threw 5 innings, allowing 6 hits and 2 runs while racking up 8 Ks. Meanwhile, the Tigers are marching out the reigning Cy Young winner, Tarek Skubal, who is one of the best pitchers in the league, but started 3 games against the Mariners this season, including Game 2 of the series, and the M's won all of those games. Tomorrow, Game 5 right here on Fox 13. We have you covered throughout the day. Starting at 2 o'clock, it's Fox 13 Extra Innings. Mariners wall to wall. Hear from the team, the fans, and the experts. First pitch is at 5:08. We'll have post-game coverage as well on Fox 13 Extra Innings, followed by Seattle News Tonight at 10. Keep it right here on Fox 13 starting tomorrow afternoon. One of the reasons I think October is the best month for sports fans, and as a reporter, honestly, is because practically everything is in action. Baseball postseason, hockey's opener, yeah, on the same weekend. The Seattle Kraken hit the ice tonight to start the franchise's 5th season. And Fox 13's Chris Swanson is live at Climate Pledge to let us know what to expect from the Seattle squad. Chris?
4 years of NHL hockey in the books, and now the page turns to Chapter 5, Year 5, I guess you could say. Hard to believe this is the 5th year of Kraken hockey. Feels like just yesterday they got this place built and up and running, but yeah, it's going to have a different look this year. Different look behind the bench with a new head coach. Again, different look on the roster as well. That's turnover's part of the NHL. It's part of any professional sports roster, really, if you think about it. But in seasons past, the lineup had more of a veteran feel with some young talent sprinkled in here and there. Now, well, that script has flipped, at least for the time being. Yes, there's veterans like Jordan Everly, Jared McCann, Adam Larson, Jamie Oleksiak, but the youth movement is on the way in. It's got a foothold already. Berkeley Catton, Ryan Winterton are among the players on the roster. Catton, a healthy scratch as of right now. We'll see if that holds up, but that's the preliminary news. Shane Wright ready for his 2nd season. Matty Benier is in his 4th season. Believe it or not, he's still only just 22 years old. And it's a roster that new head coach Lane Lambert is trying to get to gel together.
Hockey's pretty general, but there's certain little things that that we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, you can't overthink. Let's just go out and play. Let's go work and have some fun.
We've been waiting, I think, since last Wednesday to play. So I see us, playing with some excitement, some jam. I think the biggest thing is try to stick to our system. In order for us to win hockey games, we're gonna have to be structured. We're gonna have to, play on the right side of the puck and limit our mistakes. So, as long as that energy and that passion is there, which I know it will be, try and use our brains a little bit and play the system.
The Kraken, believe it or not, actually looking for their first opening night win in franchise history. They are 0-4 so far. We'll see if the fifth time is the charm. Right now, we're going to bring in Fox 13 digital content producer Curtis Crabtree. Knows his team inside and out. 5 years, fifth year. He's been here all the previous 4. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on this roster. Yeah, we talk young guys. There's also some new veteran faces that have come in.
There are a couple. One on the forward, one on the defensive end. Mason Marchment comes and joins them, gives them a little bit more grit up front. Somebody who's willing to get to the net, be a little bit more physical around there, try to get some goals that way. While Ryan Lindgren comes in probably to pair with Brandon Montour on the back end to try to stabilize their defensive core, which is a real kind of struggle throughout last season. So those are the main names I think to take into account. Additionally, they'll have a third goaltender this year in Matt Murray, who comes in to join the mix as well, which is an interesting decision by them to start the season here.
All right, you talk about head coaches coming and going the last few years. That's well documented. But is this move going to finally land some stability in the head coaching ranks?
Well, I'm sure the Kraken are going to hope. It's kind of like what the Seahawks did with Jim Mora. When they realized that the 1 year with Jim Mora back in 2009 was not going correctly, they took the chance to pivot and go to find somebody who they hope can kind of run with it like Pete Carroll did. Whether that's Lane Lambert or not, I guess we're going to find out. But he's attention to a detail kind of coach to come in here and try to get them back playing well, where, as I said a year ago, the defensive game really kind of slipped for them, and I think that's where they want to play, is from the backboard, play a little bit more like the playoff team of a couple years ago, where they get contributions throughout the lineup, all 4 lines kind of going, and not giving up goals just willy-nilly on the back end. So I think that's kind of where they're hoping to see Lane Lambert kind of have his impact, set a culture for them that they didn't have, I think, over the last couple of seasons, and push them in the right direction here.
All right, just speaking of giving up goals, 3 goalies on the roster. I think that was immediately one thing that was a head-scratcher to just about everybody looking at the roster. Not unusual to have 3 goalies on your roster, unusually to have 3 goalies to start a season.
Yeah, there's 2 reasons for that. One is the fact that it's an Olympic year, and so games around that Olympic window in February are going to be crunched much closer together to where I think you're going to need it just for the numbers aspect. There's going to be a lot of games in quick succession that guys are going to have to play. The other part of it is because their number 2 goaltender was not very good last year.
Yeah.
He played Philip Grubauer played 26 games for them a season ago, won just 8 games when he played. So out of 52 possible points in the standings, they got just 17 in games with Grubauer in net. Just purely not good enough. The save percentage around 870 made him borderline unplayable a good chunk of last season, and it ran Joey Daccord down with how many games he was starting and trying to keep them in contests last year. So I think those are the 2 reasons why you're seeing an extra goaltender on the roster for the Kraken this year.
All right. How important is it for this team to make the playoffs this year? How important is it to get back to having success that they saw very early on, maybe faster than a lot of people anticipated?
That's one reason they made the coaching change. There is a pressure, I think, from the ownership group that they want to push this team back forward. Whether they're going to be able to do it in a Pacific and a Western Conference and has a lot of good teams is going to be a tough ask. But I do think there's some teams that could go backwards, like the LA Kings or Vancouver Canucks, that could create an opportunity for them to get in. And if the roster does produce, like the group a few years ago, where you are getting those contributions, the 4th line's chipping in, and they're not giving up goals at the rate they were a season ago, there is a path for them to do it. But I think it is going to be a while before we know exactly what this team looks like. And if they aren't in that mix come the spring, there are guys like Jaden Schwartz, Jordan Everly, Mason Marchment that they could trade to then try to bring up more assets to go for the future.
I was just going to say, this is going to be a lot different roster by the time we get to the end of the season. Anyway, that's it from here. For Curtis Crabtree, I'm Chris Swanson. Lauren, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thanks, guys. We have just started our Kraken coverage tonight. Up next, to Sound of Hockey's Darren Brown joins the show with an in-depth look at expectations for the 5th season of this franchise. And as we go to break, take a look. The Mariners' playoff run is keeping the crew at Simply Seattle busy. They are filling orders for fans right now. The team isn't printing anything new because, like the fans, they're waiting to see what comes next. They say so far their best-selling design is Cal Raleigh's now iconic quote, "Let's go win the whole blankin' thing." Thousands of those shirts have already sold. Stay with us. Much more on Washington Sports Wrap next. In tonight's Hyundai Highlight Reel, we take a look at Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba's impressive season through 5 weeks of play. Seattle's wide receiver one has shined so far this year. He has the second most receiving yards in the league with 534 so far. His connection with new quarterback Sam Darnold is evident after just over a month of action. The second-year receiver is first in the NFL with 10 receptions over 20 yards and leads the league with catches over 40 yards as well. Jackson Smith-Njigba's play earns this week's Hyundai Highlight Reel. And keeping with the Seattle Seahawks, they have signed nose tackle Brandon Peely to the 53-man roster. The Hawks had already used all of Peely's allowed practice squad elevations after he was called up for the last 3 games. In a corresponding move, receiver Cody White was released from the active roster and then signed back to the P squad. In tonight's Spotlight, Darren Brown of Sound of Hockey joins us on this opening night of the Kraken's 5th season. Darren, we keep hearing about this young roster. What could you tell us about the team's plans for Berkeley Catton, Yanni Newman, and Ryan Winterton?
Yeah, good question, Lauren, and thanks for having me on. It's interesting. They're definitely going to ease these guys in a little bit. I think as far as Berkeley Catton is concerned, he's not playing in this first night, or at least he's not expected to. So he'll be watching from the sidelines for this one. Yanni Newman will be eased in on the 4th line, and I think I saw some fans reacting that they're, putting him in a position where he can't really succeed. I think the idea is that over time, these guys are going to start getting an opportunity. With Yanni Newman specifically, he is playing with Freddie Gaudreau, who does have some skill. He was one of the off-season acquisitions who I think can really help them with a depth scoring type of approach. And eventually, I'm sure he'll get some power play time as things come up. And then Ryan Winterton, though, this is going to be his first time getting a look at being a full-time NHL player. He's had a couple different cups of coffee with the Kraken at this point at 22 years old. But he is actually going to be playing in a 3rd line role along with Chandler Stevenson and Mason Marchman, who is another off-season acquisition. So he's going to be getting a good look, a good opportunity to produce. I'm very curious to see what he does with that opportunity.
Darren, they are all new, and this team is going to be adjusting to some newness. 3rd head coach in the young history of the franchise so far. What are you seeing about Lane Lambert's style that's going to be different for Seattle?
Yeah, he's definitely an intense coach, and I think what we keep hearing from everyone in the media, everyone on the team, is that he's really focused on accountability. And one of the things that we've seen a lot in practice that I've never seen another coach for the Kraken do is he'll blow drills dead if they don't do it the right way, and what he says is it doesn't matter which player it is. It doesn't matter if it's Jordan Eberle, who's been in the league for so long and is the captain of the team, or if it's Berkeley Catton, who's 19 years old. If they don't get it right, he's going to blow it dead and he's going to make them start over. So I think there is definitely a sense of accountability. Lane Lambert is very much focused on regaining the structure and the detail that made this team successful in year 2, right? It's been a while now since they have had a successful season, that year when they actually went to the 2nd round of the playoffs. So that has been a big focus of his approach so far. It's very intense. It's very straightforward. He seems to communicate really well, and the players seem to really be welcoming being pushed through training camp. It was never a gentle day at practice. Every single day they were working very hard. Every drill had a lot of tempo involved in it, and again, really focused on being detailed in their structure. So I'm hopeful, from the Kraken's perspective, that can bring back some of the staunch defensive play that we've seen from this team in the past. They really got away from that last season. I think it's pretty important that they get it back.
Lambert, one of many additions for this Kraken team this offseason. I mean, how are they going to help? Because the Kraken, like you said, it's been a few seasons since they reached where they want to be and didn't even make it all the way. But they need to make the postseason. Are these additions going to get them there?
That's a good question. I think the national media has been kind of down on the Kraken in terms of their outlook for this season. I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than most, mostly because last season they made some splashy additions when they brought in Brandon Montour and Chandler Stevenson. And I do believe that the front office last season thought the Kraken were going to be a playoff team, or at least pushing for a playoff spot. That obviously didn't come to fruition. So this season, if that does actually happen, where they had the improvements from last year, where they actually start to shine through. Plus, you made some really smart acquisitions during the offseason this year. They got stronger on defense, I think, with Ryan Lindgren. Mason Marchment is a player who can really get to the front of the net, and I think they look a little bit deeper up front with Gaudreau playing now on the fourth line. He is more skilled than people, I think, give him credit for, and he's had some 20-goal seasons in the NHL. So I do think that they're definitely better than last year, and I think they're much better than the year before that. So do I believe that they're going to make the playoffs? I think I'm hopeful that they're going to be at least pushing for it at the end of the season, and I do think that these additions will make them a much better team this season.
All right, Darren, so are you going to say it? Are you thinking that the team is better than everyone else is giving them credit for?
I do believe they are. Yeah, we'll see, right? You never know until they actually start playing the games exactly how the team is going to come together on the ice. But I do think that they're better than what the national media has kind of given them credit for. I think that the offseason acquisitions were very shrewd. I think they really focused on addressing needs this offseason, and they did a good job of it. So, yeah, I think they will be better than people give them credit for. Whether or not they're really pushing for a playoff spot at the end of the season, that obviously remains to be seen. That's why we play the games, and we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens when the season starts tonight. Thank you so much to the cautiously optimistic Darren Brown joining us from Sound of Hockey. And here's a look at the Kraken blue carpet arrival ahead of tonight's season opener. Great opportunity for the fans. Up next, we are live at Climate Pledge Arena for one last look before the puck drops on the 5th season of this franchise. Stay with us on Washington Sports Wrap. another sports-filled weekend for Seattle fans. The Reign are hosting Bay FC. Kickoff is tomorrow night at 7:30, and you can watch that match on Fox 13 Plus. Coverage starts at 7. Again, that's tomorrow night on Fox 13 Plus, your official Reign FC media partner. Welcome back to Washington Sports Wrap. The Seattle Kraken and the Anaheim Ducks fired their coaches last season. So now, with new leadership, these two teams face off and try to start the season 1-0. Let's head back to Climate Pledge Arena, where Fox 13's Chris Swanson is live previewing this new era for both teams.
All right, first day of school vibes is the way it's being described here at Climate Pledge Arena. Their teams were out on the ice doing their warm-ups. They've left the ice, went back to the locker room, getting ready for the puck to drop in a few minutes, and the starting lineups are out. Going to go over them real quick with you. Not any huge surprises. We did mention, though, earlier that Catton was not going to be in the line. He is a healthy scratch tonight, along with Cale Fleury. And the top lines will be Jared McCann, Matty Beniers, and Jordan Eberle on the right wing over there. Second line, Ellie Tolvanen on the right wing. Shane Wright along with Jaden Schwartz. Third line, the Grinders. Mason Marchmont, Chandler Stevenson, and Ryan Winterton is in the starting lineup. One of the young guys getting right on there. Fourth line, the Brood Squad. Ty Cartier, Freddie Gaudreau, and Yanni Newman will head that up. And Joey Decord starting in goal tonight. Going to step away for a second to have a look at the arena. They're filling up. Chris, you have to imagine everybody's battling traffic to get in here. But I will say the good news about this, in an arena where it's been criticized by too many visiting fans coming in, that is not apparently an issue tonight. There are some orange in here. They're Anaheim Ducks fans, easy to spot. And if you watch the broadcast tonight, you will see a shade of orange that will make you uncomfortable. I've been covering hockey for a long, long time, and it's not normal for a man to give fashion advice usually, but it's one of the most hideous orange colors on the Anaheim Ducks that I have ever seen, even going back to the 1970s Flyers. So at least the Kraken in their standard black uniforms tonight, their standard home uniforms. Hopefully they get off to a good start. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, never won an opener. So they're going to make the fifth time a charm and see if they can get it going. So that's the latest from here at Climate Pledge Arena. Lauren, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate the fashion advice. The puck drops for the Kraken 2025 season tonight against the Ducks at 7 p.m. Julio Rodriguez RBI double in Game 2 of the ALDS gave Seattle its first playoff win at home in 24 years. As Game 5 quickly approaches, Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and the Mariners stars need to step up against the Tigers and Tarek Skubal so Seattle can celebrate a series win tomorrow night.
They know what needs to happen, and so again, keeping that sort of loose state of mind, but they're relaxed, but they're focused, and I think that's the difference. And these guys know how to focus. They know staying in the moment is a big thing that they've talked about all season long, and certainly tomorrow night is one of those moments, and those guys will be ready for those moments, and they'll be loose and ready to play.
A reminder, tomorrow's Game 5 is right here on Fox 13. We've got you covered throughout the day, starting at 2 o'clock. It's Fox 13 Extra Innings. First pitch is at 5:08. We'll have post-game coverage as well on Fox 13 Extra Innings, followed by Seattle News Tonight at 10. Keep it right here on Fox 13 starting tomorrow afternoon. For Chris Swanson, Curtis Crabtree, and the whole Fox 13 sports team, I am Lauren Helmbrecht. Make sure to have multiple screens and the Fox 13 local app ready for tomorrow night, because these are the days you live for as a sports fan. Mariners, Reign, and the Washington Huskies are playing tomorrow too. So keep it all tuned in. Thanks so much for watching this edition at Washington Sports Wrap. We'll close the show with a live shot at Climate Pledge as puck drop is just minutes away between the Seattle Kraken and Anaheim Ducks.
A blind spot that's never out of sight. How it should be. The Hyundai Tucson. Now for a limited time, get 1.99% APR for 60 months on the Hyundai Tucson or Tucson Hybrid. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.